Level 1, the applicant. You apply online like everyone else. There is a form on the CIA website where you fill in your name, your education, and your work history. You do not have the rugged military experience of the paramilitary operators. Instead, you have a master's degree in international relations, data science, or behavioral psychology. You click submit and wait. 6 months later, you finally get an email stating they want to interview you, and you fly to Virginia on your own dime. The building looks like any other depressing government office, complete with fluorescent lights and bad coffee. A man in a grey suit sits you down and asks you relentlessly invasive questions for 4 hours straight. He asks where you grew up, what languages you speak, if you have ever used drugs, or if you have ever traveled to certain flag countries. The questions seem completely random, but they are not. They are meticulously building a psychological profile, looking for patterns and looking for lies. You pass the initial interview, but then comes the polygraph. You sit in a freezing room, strapped into a chair with sensors attached to your chest, your fingers, and your arm. A technician monitors your heart rate, your breathing, and your skin conductivity, while asking if you have ever committed a crime you weren't caught for, or if you have ever betrayed a friend. You sweat and you stutter, but you tell the absolute truth because you are terrified of what happens if you don't. 3 weeks later, you receive a nondescript letter in the mail. You have been accepted. Welcome to the CIA. Level 2, the trainee. They send you to Camp Peary, Virginia, a massive classified facility that the locals simply call the farm. It is 9,000 acres of dense woods, swamps, and specialized training facilities surrounded by heavy fences and armed guards. For the next 18 months, this isolated compound is your entire world. While the clandestine operations officers are out in the woods learning how to lose a tail or pick locks, you sit in highly classified classrooms learning about foreign government, terrorist organizations, and intelligence tradecraft. Tradecraft is the CIA's word for spy skill, and for an analyst, that means learning how to process the massive amounts of information the operatives steal. You learn to see patterns that civilians miss. Your instructors run exhaustive practice operations, drilling into you that a single missed detail in a translated document could mean a bomb goes off in a crowded embassy. You are taught how to study psychology, manipulation, and persuasion to understand why foreign assets betray their country. You memorize the 4 human motivations: money, ideology, coercion, and ego. The pressure is immense. The hours are grueling, and the washout rate is 40%. Some people crack under the intense psychological pressure, and some people realize they are simply too moral for this kind of deceptive work. You survive because you learn to compartmentalize. You learn to process terrifying global threat and then go home and eat dinner like nothing happened. Level 3, the desk analyst. You graduate in the top tier of your class and become a junior desk analyst at Langley headquarters. You are placed in a windowless room with a secure air-gapped computer terminal. For 12 to 14 hours a day, you read intercepted email, examine satellite imagery, and pass through translated reports from foreign assets scattered across the globe. You read endless dry classified cables detailing economic conditions and political developments in former Soviet bloc countries or volatile Middle Eastern states. It is mind-numbing, tedious work, akin to searching for a needle in a global haystack of data. Then, one day, you finally spot it. You notice a mid-level bureaucrat in a hostile foreign ministry is suddenly spending far more money than his government salary allows. You dig deeper into his financial record and write a comprehensive report suggesting he has massive gambling debt. Months later, you find out an operations officer used your exact psychological profile to approach him at a casino, buy him drinks, and recruit him to steal classified diplomatic cable. It is a chilling realization. The paperwork you push at your desk directly manipulates real human lives thousands of miles away. Level 4, the targeting officer. You are promoted to a targeting officer. You are no longer just passively observing global politics. You are actively hunting human beings. You are assigned to track high-value targets such as Al-Qaeda leadership, Taliban commanders, or specialized bomb makers who have killed American soldiers. You sift through unimaginably massive datasets, intercepted phone records, and endless hours of grainy drone surveillance footage. Eventually, you pinpoint the exact geographic coordinates of a terrorist compound hidden deep in the mountains. You pass this critical intelligence directly to the Special Activities Division, SAD, the CIA's paramilitary arm. You sit at your secure desk in Virginia and watch a live satellite feed as hellfire missiles rain down from a drone, turning the buildings into smoking craters. Sometimes the intelligence is perfectly accurate. The target is exactly where you said they would be, and bad people die. But sometimes the intelligence is tragically wrong. The target isn't there, and innocent women and children die. You force yourself not to think about the times you are wrong, pushing the guilt down deep. You cannot afford to dwell on it because you have another mission and another target waiting for you tomorrow. Level 5, the briefing officer. Your analytical skills are recognized and you are pulled out of the basement to be put directly in front of the decision makers. You become a briefing officer. Your daily job is to take a 50-page, highly classified intelligence report on a complex geopolitical crisis and brutally condense it into a 3-minute speech for a politician or a general who barely has time to pay attention. You quickly realize that Washington wants results, and they do not want to hear about nuance, gray areas, or probability percentages. They want absolute certainties in a world that is completely chaotic. You learn to speak with unwavering confidence about fluid situations, projecting authority while hiding the massive gaps in your data. You start to understand that the internal politics of the intelligence community are exhausting. You are constantly managing the massive egos and ambitious expectations of powerful people who make decisions that will never be officially acknowledged. You learn how to tailor your intelligence to deliver the harsh reality without completely alienating the policymakers who hold the purse strings for your division's budget. Level 6, the forward deployed. Analyst headquarters decides they need your brain out in the field. You are deployed directly to a war zone, operating out of a heavily fortified embassy or a dusty mud compound in the mountains. You are now working directly alongside the heavily armed paramilitary officers and the private military contractors who make 3 times your government salary. You are entirely out of your element, wearing tactical gear over your civilian clothes. When the operators kick down a door and clear a room in the dead of night, they bring the captured intelligence straight to you. Encrypted laptops, burner phones, and blood-stained documents. You aggressively interrogate prisoners who were just captured by friendly forces, desperately trying to extract actionable data before the enemy network realizes they have been compromised and relocated. You work 20-hour days in 120-degree heat, fueled by bad coffee and sheer adrenaline. You hear the terrifying crack of bullets snapping past your head when the perimeter of your base is attacked. You are not a trained soldier, but you are now deeply and inextricably embedded in the brutal reality of the war you used to only read about in files. Level 7. The counterintelligence analyst. You are abruptly recalled to Langley for a highly sensitive, specialized assignment in counterintelligence. A local intelligence service got suspicious and managed to completely burn a major American operation in Beirut. The horrific conclusion is that there is a mole inside the CIA. You are no longer looking at adversaries abroad. You are hunting your own colleagues. You use every tool at your disposal: polygraph results, covert travel records, and hidden offshore financial statements of CIA officers to hunt for the traitor. You are specifically looking for lies within an agency that meticulously trains its people to lie convincingly to absolutely anyone. You begin to study the micro-expressions, the daily habits, and the personal weaknesses of the very people you eat lunch with in the cafeteria. The paranoia becomes utterly suffocating, completely isolating you from everyone you know. You realize with a cold dread that in this specific role, loyalties are incredibly fluid and you can truly trust no one. Level 8, the senior subject matter expert. After 15 grueling years at the agency, you have ascended to the role of senior subject matter expert. You know absolutely everything there is to know about a specific terrorist network or a rogue nation's covert nuclear weapons program. You know their leaders' daily habit, their financial vulnerability, and their psychological pressure point. You have been tracking these exact same targets for so long that you feel like you know them intimately, perhaps even better than your own family. The job has taken its inevitable toll. Your marriage likely ended during your second high-stress tour in the Middle East, and your children barely know the person you pretend to be. You are now the definitive, unquestioned voice in the entire United States intelligence community on this specific subject. When a sudden violent crisis erupts in your designated region, you are the very first person the director of the CIA calls for an explanation. Your words dictate the immediate military posture of the entire country. Level 9, the task force lead. A major unprecedented global crisis hit. Perhaps a foreign government is rapidly falling into chaos, or 15 tons of deadly chemical weapons like mustard gas or sarin are suddenly missing from a looted military depot. You are appointed as a task force lead. You now manage a massive cell of analysts working feverishly around the clock. You sleep a maximum of 2 hours at a time, curled up under your desk in secure, windowless facility. You sift through thousands of desperate, conflicting reports from informants on the ground who might be lying, might be actively setting you up for an ambush, or might be secretly working for the other side. You carry the crushing burden of having to make the final, definitive analytical call on whether a piece of intelligence is credible enough to risk a raid. If your analysis is wrong and the building is heavily guarded instead of empty, elite American operators will die in the dark. If that happens, you will have to help craft the classified lies that go into the letters sent to their grieving families. Level 10, the PDB briefer. You are selected for the ultimate, most prestigious analytical role in the government, delivering the President's Daily Brief, PDB. You wake up at 3 a.m. and drive to the White House before the sun even comes up. You are escorted into the Oval Office to brief the President of the United States on the most sensitive covert operations on the planet. You are tasked with delivering the most terrifying news in the world every single morning. You inform the Commander-in-Chief about loose nuclear material, imminent terrorist plot, and shifting, treacherous global alliances. The intelligence you present in this room directly shapes immense military action and dictates foreign policy. You sit across from the most powerful person on earth and calmly explain the horrific realities of the shadow war. In these brief, hence morning meetings, you hold the trajectory of the future and the course of history directly in your hand. Level 11, the division chief. You are promoted to run an entire analytical division, such as the Counterterrorism Center, hunting the people who desperately want to kill America. Hundreds of seasoned intelligence officers report directly to you, and thousands of foreign assets worldwide feed raw, unverified information into your massive database system. You oversee the strategic analysis that drives billions of dollars in highly classified black budget funding, money that officially does not exist and never appears in any congressional report. You are no longer just looking at raw intelligence. You are managing a labyrinthine, massive bureaucracy. You constantly fight bitter turf wars with the operations division because their field officers sometimes push bad, unverified intelligence from shady assets just to get a quick promotion. You must perfectly balance the relentless, screaming demand from politicians for actionable intelligence with the stark, terrifying reality that the world is mostly unpredictable chaos. Every decision you make is a high-stakes gamble. Level 12, the politicized executive. You have finally reached the absolute highest executive levels of the agency. You sit in the ultra-secure Situation Room at the table with the Secretary of Defense and the National Security Advisor, while life and death decisions are made that will never, ever be publicly acknowledged. The administration desperately wants to take military action in a controversial region, and they subtly but firmly pressure you to make your intelligence report justify their predetermined war. You regularly testify before Congressional Intelligence Committee, but the real, dangerous briefings happen in closed sessions with absolutely no transcript. The senators ask probing questions, and you provide calculated answers that are technically true, but carefully, deliberately incomplete. Everyone in the room intimately knows the rules of the game. The politicians do not actually want to know the ugly details. They solely want plausible deniability. You give it to them. You realize the profound, sickening moral compromises of your entire career. You are actively shaping the truth to fit the policy, keeping the massive machine that runs on secrets and blood continuously moving forward. Level 13, the ghost. You finally retire after 30 long years of carrying incredibly dark secrets. You receive the Distinguished Intelligence Cross in a quiet, closed conference room at Langley, an award you can never display to your family or friends. You move to a quiet, isolated house in Virginia. Your government pension is generous, and your healthcare is excellent, but you are utterly and completely alone with your horrifying memory. You watch the naive news anchors debate global events on television, and you know the terrifying, classified truth behind every single headline, but you are strictly bound by non-disclosure agreements for the rest of your natural life. You wake up at 3 a.m. and walk the perimeter of your property, looking for threats that aren't there. You are a ghost. You know that somewhere out there, a young, idealistic person is excitedly filling out an application on the CIA website, dreaming of being part of something bigger, completely unaware of how this grueling job will systematically hollow them out and fill them back up with secrets. The vicious cycle begins again.